Trying not to be too loud.
Yeah.
All right, man. Welcome to another Sunday. It's about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're here for Black Wealth Media Live with myself and the great.
What's good, y'all? Idrian is here, host of the Black Wealth Media Podcast, man. Happy to be here. Let's get this conversation going, man.
For real. So y'all know we like to jump right into everything. No intros, no nothing. But actually, we usually do intro. We'll save it for the
Yeah,
end.
we do intro. Yeah.
I don't got my books near me. We're gonna skip the intro today. uh, but I'm Trevor Cassaberry, and today we're talking about 3 reasons why you must. I think that's the name, or 3 reasons to memorize your organization chart.
Yeah.
Right? 3 reasons to memorize your company organizational chart. Last week we discussed your ultimate vision or your career vision being too vague, and this week we want to dive into one of the details from last week, which was knowing and understanding your company organizational chart. And for those who don't know what that is, the literal definition is an organizational chart is a diagram that shows the structure of an organization and the relationships and relative ranks of its parts and positions and jobs. The main reason I believe it's important the main reason I encourage and say that it's important to really understand it from an employee level and entrepreneur level is one, it teaches you how to structure out a team in that specific industry, as well as if you're the employee, teaches you how to figure out what your end goal is or end target is in that industry and a pathway to getting there. So, if you're in construction management, you might, maybe you're a construction inspector right now, and one day you want to, make more money, but you don't necessarily know what position it is that you'll need or what specific kinds of construction management program we'll kind of be diving into today. But for a bunch of different industries, because Idrian has worked in way more industries than I.
But yeah, so yeah, man. Like I think, from a personal standpoint, so I think of it as like the Black Wealth Media Podcast. If I was to put some actual structure in my business, I think I would want to be the one seeking the interviews. You know what I'm saying? I'll be the one seeking the interviews, um, and that's it. And then I would probably have someone putting out content on the platform. You know what I'm saying? Then I got someone else. Um, well, actually, no. You know what? I think I would rather be the one doing the interviews. And I think if I was to build a team, like I would have someone. Okay, you are in charge of, Black Gold Media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and I want you to make posts and put out posts every day. And then I would have someone going to seek out the interviews, and then I think it would be a good idea to have a person that maybe like a product designer or somebody that can reach out for like monetization, like sponsors and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's as far as I got with my business.
Gotcha. Well, I like to speak from the W-2 employee side and the business side, but I pretty much got like 3 quick reasons. One, if you are an employee, number one, once you see the organizational chart, you can actually see what's the top spot in your specifically in your project that you are working on, depending on what industry you're in. So if you're in, let's say, like social work or construction or something like that, or in tech, you're typically working on different projects throughout the year. Versus if you're somebody who works in, retail, uh, you wouldn't necessarily be working on different projects, but you'll just have one operation to, make sure you're working your piece of, right? So, but either way, you want to know if you're going to stay in that company or even that industry, you want to have a reason why, and ideally it would be what is that end position that I want to get. So, like myself, it would have originally it would have been project manager until I looked at it from a business perspective and realized in no reality I have a way to use my W-2 position to get into an ownership spot, right? But if you're not in business in your industry and you're just an employee, then you could look for whatever that top spot is on your contract just by looking at the org chart. I mean, the top spot on your project or the second to top spot. So obviously, I always talk from construction management, engineering, because that's, the industry I know best. And, typically it would be like a director of construction, then a project manager, then maybe a deputy project manager or assistant project manager. Then you'll have like junior project managers, and then you'll have like inspectors or something like that. In all reality, those junior project managers and assistant project managers may get different titles depending on their depending on the type of project. So it may be resident engineer, it may be office engineer, it may be site coordinator, it may be scheduler, estimator, whatever it is. But those people are on the project management team versus the inspectors are really, and chief inspector, they're on the sites. They're not necessarily in project management, but directly in construction management. So you'll be on a construction management project, but you have some people that are literally on the sites doing literal construction management and others in an office doing project management. So, from there, you can literally decide, do I like working in the office or do I like working out on a construction site? And from there, you say, all right, I like the construction site better. So what's the top spot for people on the construction site? And that's typically going to be a chief inspector, which is why they get paid, more than a lot of the people in the office, because they are technically the top spot you can get in the field. Versus if you want to stay in the office, the top spot would be director of construction, or if you're talking about one project, it'll be a project manager. So, at that point, you have to look at what that person is doing and who are all the people in between you and that project manager, and how can you work your way up there, right? But without that organizational chart, you don't even know where your end goal is, because you don't know who does what and who everyone speaks to as far as communicating information up the chain.
Yeah.
Idrian, I'll let you jump in here. Any thoughts you got so far?
Yeah, I was just, as you were talking about that, I was just thinking about how with like me working at Lowe's overnight, I remember one time I went into the break room and I was looking at like the positions, like, so we have the store manager.
Don't worry about it, man. This is real life.
so yeah, man. So I was looking at how we have the store manager and he runs the entire store. Then you have the zone managers. They have like a certain zone in the store that they manage. And then you have like the assistant overnight managers. And like there's so many different managers. And so, I guess, since I'm an overnight stalker, I would probably be considered like the lowest in the hierarchy. And then I have my manager, and you know what I'm saying? So, and then over that guy, over the store manager, you have the district manager, you have
regional managers and stuff.
Yeah, the regional man. I'm like, what? Like, it's a lot of managers. Like the president, and then you have the CEO of Lowe's is actually a black dude. I didn't know that. I was actually surprised by that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the CEO is a black dude, and then he has like, it's like 10 people under him, like top executives that they're, saying they are under him, and then they have all the people under them, and it's pretty cool. You got the operations manager, you got like the managers that some managers don't even come to the store; they just work from home, and you might have a manager that's setting the schedule. So yeah, man, I was just thinking about that, and if I wanted to be like super ambitious and become the CEO, just I had to look at, okay, this is what I have to do. I got to become a manager, and you got to think about like how the person that's managing you, how they run the store, and just kind of take an example. And then also, like, if you wanted to move up, of course, you got to do it your way. And just that's what I was looking at, yeah, man. So I think, and then like also, this is the same thing in when I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's the same thing. You got the store manager, you got the zone managers, you got the regional man. You know what I'm saying? You got all types of managers. So if you want to be like really ambitious, you got to do a lot of managing.
Right, exactly. And yeah. The funny part, because compared to like retail or even like stock and shells or whatever, just the title manager, it's a lot more levels of management, right?
Yeah.
Where you actually get it in your title. Me in construction management, my industry got the word management in it, but most of the titles don't. So like you're a construction manager, even though your title is construction inspector.
Yeah.
Then like me, I'm supervisor and construction inspector, but like manager still not in my title.
Yeah.
Then the guy above me is chief inspector, but manager still not in his title. But then you look at retail, it's like you got this manager, that manager, that manager, and all of them might work in the same store. So that's just a feeling I picked up on.
Yeah, and then you kind of get like, my bad, I even interrupted you.
good.
You kind of get like me personally. I'm like, okay, so what kind of manager are you? Because there's so many people. They wear like, if you go to Lowe's, they have like these little red jackets, or some of them got blue jackets, and a certain color means like whatever rank you are. And so, me, I'm always wondering like, who is this? Like, what manager are you? And you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man.
You think the same on some construction sites? I remember I went for like track training, so you could do construction next to train tracks. The safety. And one dude was asking me because my vest says CCM on the back, which stands for Consulting Construction Manager.
Yeah.
But a lot of the contractors there never saw that before, so they were like, "What does CCM even mean?" And at the time, I was like, I know C and M stand for construction management, but I don't know what the other C stand for. and so I had to look it up and ask around myself. It took me a couple of days because like you can't just type in acronyms on Google and hope that it comes up, because there's just an acronym for everything nowadays.
Yeah.
So CCM can mean whatever it means in anybody else's business. But I wanted to lead up to say, like I was saying before, not only can you identify your end goal, so like what's that top spot you're looking for, but also a pathway to get there, right?
Yeah.
So let's say again for myself, if I decided I want to be, because there was a point in time I decided I want to be outside on construction sites only. I don't want to do indoors anymore, which was pretty much this past project I was on. I was working on a New York City transit project, and I just I worked in the office before, didn't like it. I was able to do more of it because I was working from home. But my transition to working in the office was during quarantine. So really my transition to leaving the construction sites was to working at home. So I wasn't complaining because it was easy to get the work done. But once you added in the travel, it became more of a monster, sitting in the office and having somebody watching over you. It's like, hold on, like, I'm not for four almost 5 years. I was on the construction site managing other people who make way more money than me. So you're not about to just be sitting over me asking me about the progress on an Excel spreadsheet that you're not even gonna submit to anybody anytime soon. So because of that experience, I'm like, I definitely enjoy being out. Right. So that's even like if I was in sales, I would never take an inside sales position. Whatever position I'm taking, I would want to be outside, regardless of which, right?
Sure.
So that there's that one decision that says, okay, if you stay in the construction management, your highest rank is going to be chief inspector, right? So at that point, I just started thinking, okay, how do I work my way up to chief inspector? So I was already supervisor construction inspector. The issue there was chief inspectors typically are the guys who know the most, or the person on the site that knows the most about construction out of the inspectors, right? So they're able to make sure that whatever the contractors are doing will be up to code, but also that they're not doing something that won't work or isn't in the design, right? Like the chief inspector has to know everything that's going on. So sometimes it's stuff that's not even something that you wouldn't even learn in a classroom. Like for instance, I had a engineer in charge, EIC, at another project when I worked on the highways, and he told us when there's like an electrical cord cut or something like that, he was like, those are very strong cables. They don't just get cut very easily. So when there's power out and you know that there's a power cable cut, look to see if there's nearby construction. He was like, if there's nearby construction within 2 blocks, odds are that's where it got cut at. And you can sometimes look through like a hole or something and see exactly where it's cut. And I want to say if that happened, 10 times, 3 times, that was the case. which saved us a lot of time and a lot of money because we could have been sending electricians out there for a week looking for this cut piece, right? So I say all that to say that person has to know not just electrical engineering, but mechanical engineering, civil engineering, the soil and all these other things. Versus me myself, I'm really a electrical engineering major. Like that's what I got my degree in. And my first job, in construction management as a construction inspector, it was specifically on a telecommunications project. So all of my experience was really in electrical, telecommunications, and then a little bit of civil kind of stuff, or maybe they have to chop down some bricks, fix something, and put some back. But that happened like twice, right? Maybe they taking down a giant sign off the highway, but like still, that wasn't the usual kind of thing we were working on. So because of that, it handicapped me because I don't have the expertise that a lot of construction inspectors would. Because on any construction project, only like the last 20% of the project is the electrical stuff and the communication stuff. The first 80% is all digging up dirt, putting in concrete, putting in pillars, roofing, structuring, and all of that stuff, which isn't my expertise. I know a little of all of that stuff, but not enough to say I'm going to lead a group of contractors into that kind of ordeal. So it's like, because of that, it's like I'd either have to put in a lot more time to become a chief inspector, or I'd have to, network and find the perfect electrical project, right? Which would have been the old project I was on, which I ended up, almost getting the chief inspector position there. But I took a supervisor inspector position anyway. And one of the guys that was there before I left originally took the chief inspector position because he's been there. Yeah. So, that one experience of figuring out where I wanted to go, how I was going to get there, and then figuring out the obstacles to get in that final position, or only because I knew the org chart. And the only reason I actually knew the org chart is because I had to make it for the project with transit because I was the office. They switched me to an office engineering kind of role. So it's like once I got to make the org chart, I got to literally see who's ahead of who replies to who, from the horse's mouth at the top of the contract. Put this person under here, this person under here. I had to make another chart that talked about how many of each position we were going to need each month. So I was able to see the flow of the project where we needed more and more manpower. And then as the project progressed, eventually they start letting people go more and more. So I was able to anticipate what month they'd probably even let me go on, right? So all of those things really came from the org chart, which if I didn't have that inside scoop on there, I would have been blind, maybe not even caring that I was doing office work still. Versus, again, if I would have decided, I love the office, I don't want to go out in a construction site anymore. Now, to get to that project manager position, I got to go from, inspector to office engineer, from office engineer to resident engineer, from resident engineer to, deputy project manager. And a lot of times, just that jump from office engineer to resident engineer isn't that easy because they may keep you as an office engineer for a long time if you prove yourself really good at it. Because a lot of the older people aren't that great with computers. Another thing that could happen is like they could take you from an office engineer and just decide, oh, you don't have the qualifications for a resident engineer because you don't have as much experience reading and analyzing drawings. Yeah. So now you got to go get certified and get new certificates just to prove yourself to get the resident engineer position, which that position you still right in the office sitting 2 desks away from the office engineer, just reading drawings. Maybe you make another 10 or 20,000 on top of that person. But it all just comes down to, are you going to find enough of these positions? Because I've worked on 2 different projects. The first one I worked on, we didn't have a resident engineer on the project. And the second one I worked on, they got rid of the resident engineer because he wasn't doing much. So, you got to think about, is your position even seen as a requirement or a necessity? And what positions have enough responsibilities that you could prove yourself viable to the project so you can actually stay to the end instead of getting laid off. So like that's another obstacle you deal with in the office. And again, with the office politics of it all. So You know, that those are like the three keys.
Yeah.
What's your last position? How you gonna get there? And then like the number of positions that's available for each spot. And then lastly, who you gonna ask for guidance to those positions? Because don't think you can ask if you're the inspector and you want to become a resident engineer. Don't think the office engineer can tell you, because they might want to become the resident engineer. So now you know,
Yeah.
trying to talk to your competition, and it's only one spot.
He not
And
giving you
whoever doesn't get it, you know, if you get it, you lock this person in the office engineer until the end of the project or until somebody else quits.
Yeah.
So that's an issue with the office roles. Is there's so much less of them. It's a lot more competition and politics and things going on that you may get stuck in one position for 4 years versus on a construction site, you'd never be working one position for 4 years. You know, unless you got to the top or you just chose one position. But those are the kind of things employees really have to think about regarding their organizational chart and how it'll really help them plan for the rest of their career.
Yeah. Man, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, man, that is so many intricate details that you have to pay attention to in between, like
your job.
Yeah. Like the 3 steps you need to complete to get to where you want to get. And so I'm thinking, man, like you really have to be on your P's and Q's.
Right.
So, like, my question to you, man, is like, how does it feel to just have to? I know your mom probably going like 100 miles an hour. Like, how does it feel? Like, how do you deal with, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you get through that? And just like, how do you feel about that, man?
Honestly, I think I'm able to deal with it a lot easier and make a lot more, you know, family decisions, because I already know, you know, I was able to identify what my end goal is and what I'm looking for. And specifically because I knew, you know, my first 2 years in working, you know, in construction management, I figured out, you know, the research and how to register a business to be a vendor and how much subcontractors get paid compared to prime. And, you know, just by asking a bunch of questions, I'd be on the site just talk anybody I knew that was part of the whole procurement process. I just asked them a bunch of questions until the job is over that day. So there was one guy, Kevin, he was like in charge of telecommunications from New York to Miami or something like that. And like he's that guy. He's literally always on call 24/7, 2 in the morning on a vacation in the Bahamas. If he gets a call, he has to book a flight and go and fix stuff. So like, I was asking him because he helps come up with the numbers for how much companies bid and who wins and all this other stuff. Asked him about the process and he just put me on game. So because of that, I was able to know at some point I want to be the owner of a subcontracting or a sub-consulting company in construction management. Knowing that, I just knew and all I had to do was learn the whole operation. But I didn't necessarily have to make enough friends and stuff like that or find guidance to become the number one person on a project, because that, you know, that person is technically, if I'm an owner, that person is hired by me. So, you know, I don't look at them as somebody for guidance. I look at those people just to learn what all the positions are. Because I asked enough questions, you know, the job wasn't boring. When you run out of questions to ask because you kind of learned all the things you want to learn and you know what your next step is, that's when the job gets boring and you start deciding, you know, I need a new job or I need a promotion. Some people decide it's too hard to get a new job or a promotion, so they're just gonna go in and ask for a raise. But you know, that's when you start getting uncomfortable and unfulfilled at your job, is when you have something else in mind and you realize what you're doing now, there's no regular path. It is a much easier path that would take you leaving that current position. And that's the reason I was able to walk away from $40 an hour, mainly because, you know, I knew I could get into ownership from the new position. It's like, imagine you had an apartment and then you had the option to rent a house until, you know, and after you rented it for 3 years, you own it, right? At that point, it's just like, man, I don't care how much I like this apartment. I'm going to the rent to own section because I want a house.
Yeah.
Like it's that simple. So the whole office politics thing, or even the company politics, I don't have the same. I don't have the same passion or emotion around it, because those positions where there's only one of them on a project of 60 people, I don't look at those positions as something I need to get to where I need to get to. I know I can get there kind of going over those people's heads. For the people who like are looking to, I want to be resident engineer on a major project and build my career that way, they're a lot more stressed about it. They're coming to work working past the clock, hoping that they could be there longer than everybody else, and that the director of construction, notice them for it. Which is, that's well in there, right? And they should do that, because at the end of the day, it's about getting the job done. But it's all about what are you most comfortable doing. There's other people who weren't even comfortable, just being on a high profile project. Like the project I just left is like a $220 million project, where the one I'm going to and the one I used to work on is like a $5 million project. So, or a $20 million project. It's not even close how much more pressure and work and submittals and things like that have to be put in. But if you don't know where your end goal is, you automatically just going to be frustrated every day. But once you know what the end goal is, if you realize you're not in a position to actually get there, you become frustrated day by day.
Yeah.
And, it happened. The same job I'm going to now, granted, it'll be a promotion, so I'll make more money and likely have a little more autonomy. The one I worked on the highway, there was a point in time I was frustrated there with my pay. But it was really because I knew the stuff that I was able to do on the job warranted me more pay that project just didn't have available to me, because the position that I'm going for now didn't exist on that project when I used to work there. So, all of those factors, I'm able to stay calm. But again, it's because I know that end vision and I know my path to get there. When I didn't, I was just as frustrated as everybody else.
Yeah. That you said something, man. Like when you said, when you start running out of ideas and you just kind of lose that inspiration, it's like your mind is going up with all these thoughts, and then it just stops and hits a plateau. And so I was just thinking about, like, that's happened, like, from with my podcast, that's happened to me before. I remember when I first started doing the podcast, I was on a roll, man. I was like getting all these interviews out of the way. I was on a roll, and then like I had stopped for like 3 months, and I kind of lost that inspiration. And like, I don't know, I think I was on I just kind of lost the inspiration because like other stuff like self-doubt and all that type of stuff, I just let it creep in. And then like I don't know what happened. I think I was talking to my wife, or I was talking to my wife, and then I say some posts on Instagram, and I like all of a sudden I just had my mind just like I just exploded with all these ideas. I'm like, bro, you got to get back to it. And then like I had people like leaving comments and like, oh my gosh, I love your podcast. Like, and so I'm like, okay, bro, you got to get back to it.
Right.
And so, and then like now I'm coming up with like these content ideas and just because I think I was just making it more about the money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so when I wasn't getting the money, it was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go back. Like, okay, why did you start this podcast in the first place? It wasn't about the money the first time. I mean, now you can get paid doing podcasting, but it wasn't about the money the first time. So I think you need to get back into it. This is me talking to myself. You get back into it. Don't make it about the money. The money's gonna come. You've been doing this for 2 years. Are you willing to do it another year and another year until somebody might want to, hey, I want to invest $1 million in your podcast. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I think I just got to a point where, man, don't make it about the money. Just be creative, enjoy what you do, and just keep coming up with ideas. So, yeah, I think that was important what you just said, man. Like,
for sure. And the next part I want to talk about is why the org chart is important for entrepreneurs, right? So, a lot of entrepreneurs either had a job when they started the business or still have a job, while they're working the business, or picked up a side job to help fund the business, right? Like myself. And the three things you really get from figuring out the org chart from your company that you're working for. Number one, this works best if the company you're working for has anything to do with your business, right? So since I'm going to be starting, or since I started a construction management business, it makes sense for me to pay attention to the construction management org chart. Although even if I was working retail, or something like that, realizing that organization, or realizing that industry org chart or that company org chart would still be beneficial to some degree. So number one, you just figure out how to structure a project, because once you see one org chart, at first it may be a little like it looks like it's just bubbles all over the place, or lines all over the place, but it's like once you really get a concept of it, you can figure out, okay, every project kind of does have this triangle of people, just like the CEO, CFO, this person, that person, lower level down. You have, your cashiers, then you have your cashier managers, then you have your, sales reps on the floor or whatever. You have your stock people, but they all might fall under different managers. Then all the different managers are all in one line, and they report to another set of managers. So when you really get a concept of what upper level, mid level, and lower level management are, and what the differences are between them, what kind of moves they're going to use their collection of data to do. One may be just the process forms for HR. Another one may be to keep forms intact for the client that the company is working for. So they're good at audits. Another one may be using it to put together presentations for to get more clients or more partnerships, right? So understanding that you have a level of management for each goal or responsibility your business has. So that's why, again, I like to always say a business is going to have at least 5 departments: legal, accounting, marketing, admin, and manpower or labor. Most businesses are going to have more than that, but a successful business is going to at least split it up into those 5, where at least 5 people got to be there doing something. One person got to make sure that the paperwork's right. Another person got to make sure the funds are right and the taxes are right. Another person making sure the marketing is right. Another person making sure communication is right. And then one person working one-on-one with the client and the customer. So that has to be in place. And the only way to truly get a grasp for it is, again, that organizational structure, because you get to see how a large scale business who has a much more complex daily operations routine gets it all situated, how you can kind of simplify it for what you have going on or what you are trying to make. Second is understanding the lines and chains of communication and responsibility. So that's like, again, those different levels of management and figuring out, okay, for this industry, if this is a legal firm, we got one set of partners who actually put their name on the door because their name has cachet. We got another set of partners who they're here because they already have a huge client list in a certain industry. So it's like we keep these people around because they keep this industry as income. We got another set of partners who are senior partners. They actually go out and go find us new business. Then we got another set of partners who actually just keep the old business around, right? So, just chopping it all up like that and applying those different responsibilities. Because again, you don't want the person who's going out to collect new business to still be trying to maintain old business. And if so, then they'll have their own client list, and you'll need another person who's doing that same exact thing with their own client list. Or you'll have a team of people who bring them in and a team of people who keep them around. So, figuring out what works best or what works currently for your industry is important before you decide to start building out a team of your own. And then lastly, figuring out what kind of experience you want to look for each position. So if you got a manager who's going to be going out getting clients, when you look at your company org chart, if you know the person who goes out and gets the clients, you can, pay attention to them and figure out what qualities they have that actually make them better at the job. Maybe it's just their ability to walk into a room in a nice suit and get people to talk to them. Maybe it's, them being able to flash a quick smile and get past somebody's initial response of no. That way now they could get them to say yes, whatever it is. But like now you can figure out people you're interviewing or people you're meeting if they have these, signature qualities that you already know are good for certain positions. Versus if you didn't have the org chart, one, you wouldn't know all the positions, you wouldn't know who works each position, and then obviously you wouldn't know what characteristics they have to actually cater to the job that they do.
Yeah.
So that's all of my breath for today. About the org chart.
Hey man, so I got a question. Like, how would you make one for a podcast, or I guess like a podcast that could be transitioned into like a show or something, just like hypothetically?
So personally, if I would have, one specifically for the team that's operating the podcast itself.
Yeah.
But then obviously there would be a grand scheme one for your entire business model. Because even though you have a podcast, like your business, that doesn't mean that's your core business. For all we know, like one day you it may be somebody that just has the most fire graphic t-shirt collection, right?
Yeah.
And then they launch a podcast called Graphic Tees Podcast.
Yeah.
They podcast blow up, right? Like that doesn't mean that their business is about podcasts. It just means they have a dope podcast.
Right.
So from that perspective, I have a podcast team and probably set it up just like I know with construction management. So we have, instead of inspectors, on a construction site, we have people who are, again, I work in construction management, so we're talking about, podcasts, something. I probably have you outsource the labor who's actually controlling all the machinery and everything, and then have, something similar to inspectors or podcast consultant out there, making sure each one of them is doing what they're supposed to do properly. Make sure the camera guy's working right, making sure the guy with the little snap things working right, the sound boom guy, making sure he's good, he hydrated and not dipping the thing into the frame, right? After the inspectors, I'd have, some sort of office engineer collecting the data. Maybe they keeping the hyperlinks intact so they can send it out to the marketing department to chop up links, whatever it is. I'd have like a resident engineer who's looking at the whole plan going forward as far as the scheme of the podcast, or what kind of questions are going to be asked to the next guest, and what offer you're going to give out at the end, what caption you may put into the description at the bottom of the video. Obviously, we have schedulers on my project, so I have a scheduler who's going out booking the time with the guests. So I'll probably have that person going out doing the pitch to make sure that everything is scheduled correctly. But again, on your end, you may be able to just have a virtual assistant handle that. But somebody's going to have to be doing the scheduling specifically, because you don't want to double book and mess that up. Right. I'd have something similar to a project manager. They'd be like the producer or director. I don't know what's higher, producer or director, because I don't know. I have a project manager at the top, making sure that all the managers are giving all the information into him. And I'd have let's say a deputy project manager. Actually, I have a deputy project manager where all the people, all the different inspectors are handing their reports into this person. Yeah. And then that person is taking all the crucial information and then giving it to the project manager. And then that person up top can make whatever changes will have to be made. Yeah. Obviously, you'd be the project manager. And, at that point, the project manager could decide to be the host or not. Yeah. If we're talking about scaling, when you could get as much content recorded as possible, then you'll just need multiple different hosts, right? You have one host that does, your people on the East Coast, another that does people in the West, another from the Midwest, another from the South, something like that. But that's how I'd have to break it up, just like construction, because I wouldn't have anything else to work with.
Dude, that was so cool how you just it was so cool, bro. You just connected. Like, I'm like, cool. Like, you a true engineer, bro. That was cool.
I appreciate it. But yeah, like that's really it. It's like, if you don't know your own industry or the job you work at, that company org chart, when you got to just create a team of 8. If I had to put together a basketball team and I never saw basketball before, you best believe I'd look at them like, okay, this is the project manager, that's the coach. You know, I do it the same way because, like, at the end of the day, you got to work with some template and you can edit it from there. You got to work from just a blank slate. You just asking for disaster.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's my biggest thing. And you know, you done got me to do an analogy between construction and podcast, so I'm good there.
For sure, man. For sure. I just said all I had to say, man.
But so I guess this is the end of what's today? Episode 4?
I think episode 4.
The end of episode 4. Look at that. We picking up. We've been doing this for a month now.
Yeah, let's go.
All right? So again, I'm Trevor Cassaberry, CEO of Cassaberry Consulting, where I teach entrepreneurs and executives how to think like engineers. I'm also the author of the For the Hustler book series. You can find all of my work and access my free negotiation clinic at Cassaberry.com. All the info is in the caption attached to this video while you're watching. And again, I'm here with the man, the legend, and the great.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, man, I'm Idrian Evans, the host of the Black Wealth Media Podcast. Y'all, we drop an episode every Wednesday at 12 p.m. I interview different Black entrepreneurs and business owners. Not only that, man, also have like important information about what's going on in the Black business world as well. I will have some more of that content. You guys can follow us. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on IG, man. So definitely tap in, man.
Absolutely. And this is Black Wealth Media Live. We'll see you guys next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Peace.
Peace, y'all.